Now we'll do something slightly different. You had the benefit of seeing a little bit of Lee Strasberg and Stella Adler, some stalwarts of the acting tradition. It's interesting how different teachers will teach different things, but we're all trying to kind of get to the same goal, which is, to create catharsis, to tell stories, to find truth in what we are, in the stories that we're trying to tell. And so much of my training, I'll just speak very briefly about kind of how I learned about my craft. I learned from a fellow named Doug Powers, who was mainly Stanislavski based. So I am trained and have continued to teach Stanislavski. I do find that sometimes it's useful, and sometimes in our modern society, particularly because we're so visually driven as a culture, that sometimes we forget about the physical and the verbal. And I also tend to teach students who are very thoughtful, and so they tend to live in their brains more than they do in their bodies. So I do find that movement and voice and diction work is super important for young actors, particularly actors that are going to be in the theater. So when I teach acting, I like to take two precepts to begin that Stanislavski taught, which is the goal is to live truthfully in imaginary circumstances. Do those two things and pretty much do whatever you want, depending upon, and apply it to whatever play you're working on, whatever musical you're working on. If you're in a musical, you have to take into account that the music is a part of the imaginary circumstances. So if you work against the music or ignore the given circumstances of the play while you're singing, then you're not really living truthfully in those imaginary circumstances. Similarly with Shakespeare, I'm actually going to post, it's one of my very favorite series of talking about Shakespeare, which is a passion of mine. It is bonus content. You don't have to watch the whole thing, but there is some fun Easter eggs of baby Ian McKellen and a baby Ben Kingsley. I think Patrick Stewart appears in the series, but I don't think he's in the video that I posted. So you can see some of your favorite X-Men as they were young Shakespearean actors in the 1980s. But in that video, they talk about how, as modern actors, we have to live truthfully through Shakespeare's given circumstances in the text. When something that is written to be rhetorical and presentational has to live within a modern idea and a modern sense, a modern taste, because we know or have grown accustomed to psychological truth being the sort of metric of success as an actor. So living truthfully through imaginary circumstances is the goal. We do that through doing. We do it through action, which in language terms are verbs. So I always push actors not to think in adjectives or in nouns, such as I am sad, or I am, I'm a clown, right? That you might be able to get to where you need to get to when you're talking about adjectives and nouns. But if you're doing verbs, where I am stumbling through the conversation, or I am ultimately, there's something that I want at the end of things. So I am going to push you away in order to make space for myself, or I'm going to pull you towards me to try and comfort you. Okay. By doing those things, there's space for spontaneity. You can push away in a whole bunch of different ways. But if you stick to the verbs, then there's room for that truthfulness, and there's a lot of room for the circumstances of the play to fill in the gaps, or to get you to shape how you do what you're doing. I mentioned before about the given circumstances of a musical theater piece, that you still need to live truthfully through imaginary circumstances, even though you got to sing. The next video I'm going to have you watch is of Stephen Sondheim teaching a masterclass with a song from Company, where he is giving just little adjustments, mostly around text, because text is part of it, and making sure that the audience can see and hear what you're trying to relay. But what is also fascinating, particularly from him, because he's a playwright and composer, he also very much speaks in verbs. He talks and gives adjustments about what the actor should be doing, along with how to articulate, how to use the music. And I thought it might be a useful way to illustrate the given circumstances of trying to live truthfully through imaginary circumstances. In the circumstance of the characters got to sing, characters have to use music. So enjoy this masterclass with Stephen Sondheim.